From cosmetics that help us look good, to fertilizer for growing food, to medicine that keeps us healthy, we depend on thousands of products to make our lives safe, convenient, and comfortable. More often than not, those products are made from chemicals. And no matter where you find them, in manufacturing plants like this, in storage tanks, in trucks on the streets and highways, or in rail cars, chemicals present a risk to anyone nearby. Hello everyone, I'm Mary Sue Jackson for KPEPC News. What if one of those risks turns into reality? What if a cloud of toxic chemicals escapes from a plant and threatens the place where you work? Would you know how to protect yourself? Today, we're going to look at one form of protection, sheltering in place. We'll see why sheltering in place is a good alternative to evacuation, how emergency alerts are issued, how sheltering in place at work is different from sheltering in place at home, how to plan for and conduct a shelter in place at work, and we'll see a demonstration on the effectiveness of sheltering in place. That's a lot to cover, so let's get started. Chemical accidents can threaten your workplace from many sources. The obvious ones are chemical plants, tanker trucks, railroad tank cars, and storage yards. The less obvious ones include swimming pools, water treatment plants, and even dry cleaners. Although companies do their best to prevent them, accidents still happen. And what if there is an accident? How do safety officials try to protect the public? With that story, here's Amy Schuler at the fire station.
Mary Sue, when there is an accident, safety officials tell me they have two ways to protect the public: by ordering an evacuation or by issuing a shelter-in-place alert. They can use one or both methods depending on the nature of the accident. An evacuation may work if there's enough time, but roads have to remain open for it to be successful, and that's certainly not likely to happen in heavy populated areas. Evacuation may be a good choice during a flood or hurricane, but you should not leave your workplace during a chemical emergency unless ordered to do so by public safety officials. Leaving your workplace may increase your chances of exposure to harmful vapors. If an evacuation won't work, safety officials may issue an alert for you to shelter in place where you are when you learn about the accident. And when you think about it, we shelter in place all of the time, something like getting away from the sun on a hot day. So it's an easy thing to do, and it will certainly reduce injuries. Mary Sue?
Amy, when do safety officials recommend sheltering in place?
Mary Sue, they will advise us to shelter in place when the chemical leak is expected to last just a short time, the chemical has a low health hazard, and it doesn't warrant an evacuation, there's not enough time to evacuate, or if chemical fumes could quickly overtake you if you are outside.
Okay, Amy, thank you. Shelter-in-place alerts are usually announced on radio and television through the emergency alert system. This is where you'll get instructions on what to do. In some areas, officials may use a telephone ring-down system to alert people. If you live near a chemical plant, you could hear a warning siren. Sirens in the Kanawha Valley are tested at noon the last Wednesday of each month. Learn what the one near you sounds like. The same siren may sound different depending on how far away you are. Close up, it may have the same volume all the time. But farther away, the sound level may rise and fall as the siren turns on top of a pole. One thing for certain, you should always take shelter-in-place alerts seriously. That's true even if you can't see the danger or if you have sheltered in place before and no danger actually came along. Once you hear an alert, the steps for sheltering in place are the same no matter where you are at home, at work, while shopping, or in a park. But there are a couple of differences between sheltering in place at home and at work. The main difference is that at work, employees can't be ordered into a shelter or made to stay there. That's why it's a good idea for everyone to decide today whether they'll enter a shelter in an actual emergency. Everyone at a workplace should talk and agree on the advantages of sheltering in place. Talking now leads to teamwork later when it comes to carrying out the plan quickly in an emergency. Another difference between home and work is that you may need a written plan at work. For example, if you have a large workforce. That plan should cover several items, including making someone accountable for managing the shelter-in-place program, naming a room to use as a shelter. The larger the room, the better. A way to share information with employees about sheltering in place, including how it will work and how it can be most effective with a team approach. A schedule for practice drills along with a drill evaluation, and provision for a supply kit for the shelter. That kit should contain a battery-powered radio, a flashlight with plenty of fresh batteries, also some plastic for covering doors and windows, duct tape, towels, a first aid kit, and of course, plenty of bottled drinking water. Let's hope you never have to shelter in place, but in case you do, here's John McPherson with more on how to do it.
Mary Sue, I'm here in an office building that's home for nearly 200 people during the day. They have an excellent shelter-in-place program here, one they've tailored to suit their own needs. In an emergency, they'd go through the following steps, just as any well-prepared office place would for shelter-in-place.
The process begins when you hear a shelter-in-place alert. Notify employees as soon as possible and tell them to go to the shelter room. Turn off the ventilation system to the building. Close windows and doors. Tape plastic sheets securely around all outside windows with duct tape. Put tape around the doors. Place a wet towel at the bottom of doors to seal out chemical fumes. Have extra towels available in case officials instruct you to cover your mouth with a wet cloth. Turn on the radio or television and listen for information and instructions. The room should have a telephone, but you should only use it for emergencies. Using it otherwise will tie up a line safety officials may need. Once the room is closed, it should not be opened again until officials give the all-clear signal. When the emergency is over, open the doors and windows to ventilate the building and then go outside.
John, what should you do if you have children in school?
Mary Sue, if you're a parent, your first instinct will probably be to leave the office and go pick up your children. Actually, your best choice is to stay put because schools have shelter-in-place programs of their own.
Thanks, John. To summarize, here's what it takes to create a shelter-in-place program where you work. First, a plan. Create a plan suited for your own workplace. Communication. Discuss the program with employees and resolve any issues up front. Learn the steps. Know how to use the shelter in an actual emergency. Here are the steps. Go into the pre-selected shelter. Turn off the ventilation system. Seal all doors and windows. Turn on the radio or television and listen for instructions. After officials give the all clear, ventilate the building and go outside. And practice. Conduct regular drills and evaluate them to see how they can be improved. You may be wondering by now whether sheltering in place is a 100% effective form of protection. The answer is no, it isn't. It offers limited but good protection on short notice for short periods of time. The goal is to reduce, not eliminate, your exposure to toxic chemicals. Jim Reeder has more on the effectiveness of sheltering in place. Jim?
Hey, Mary Sue, I'd like to show you what might happen if chemical fumes were to pass over an office building and how sheltering in place can help protect the people inside. Now, I'm going to use this plastic model for the demonstration. This large box is the environment, the air around us. The smaller box inside is the office building that's been sealed off. Now, a few minutes ago, we added some smoke to the box to simulate the release of toxic chemicals into the air. You can see how the smoke spreads into just about every corner of the environment. It takes a little longer for it to spread out in this model than it might in the real world. But as you can see, only a small amount of fumes get inside the office building. The amount of protection the building provides could be very important for those inside. Now, while sheltering in place may not guarantee absolute protection, it's a lot better than being outside where the chemicals are. Mary Sue?
Thanks, Jim. Today, we've learned several things about sheltering in place. We've seen that it's often a better way to protect yourself than trying to evacuate an area in an emergency. The need to shelter in place starts with an alert from public safety officials. They will advise us whether to shelter in place or evacuate. Good planning and good communication will improve a shelter-in-place program at work. The steps for conducting a shelter-in-place at work are simple to learn. And while it doesn't offer total protection, sheltering is a good way to protect yourself in an emergency. We hope this report has helped you learn more about sheltering in place where you work. I'm Mary Sue Jackson for KPEPC News. Thanks for watching.